In this video, we're going to create the geodetic center of section 540-440. And I want to start by inserting the west quarter corner into this retrace traverse. So let's highlight 600-440, find that in the traverse here. I'm going to insert this quarter corner just past it, so I'm going to go just down below 600-440, press the insert, and let's type in 500-440. We need to make that a side shot, so we can press F10 or we can go to point type, side shot. Traverse PC now makes that a side shot, and I'm not going to zoom extents here because I want us to be able to see these points pretty well here. I'm going to close the record traverse now, move the retrace traverse up, and let's take a look at creating this geodetic center of section. From the Kogo toolbar up here, choose the do an intersect. I'm going to choose the intersect command. Just bring this right down below here. Remember how we used the chevron previously to pick a point graphically? So in the point 1 section of the dialog on the left hand side, I want to put the information in for my north-south line. So I'm going to left click and click on 540, 500. Traverse PC populates that for me here. I could do the same thing with the bearing. Pick that line, and Traverse PC brings in the bearing. I also could have typed in an equation. I could have said 540, 500, dot dot, 540, 400. Let's try that again. So I want 540, 500, dot dot, 540, 400, enter. And Traverse PC would bring in the bearing. Now, this dialog box doesn't have the option of geodetic, true bearing, that sort of thing. So these are grid inverses that we're creating here. That's just fine. Traverse PC understands what it needs to do to create this geodetic center of section. Now, let's create our from point here, 600, 440. We could scroll over and pick at the other point or just type in the point label here. That would be just fine as well. So this is 500, 440. And again, Traverse PC inverses a grid bearing, but I'm going to tell Traverse PC that I want to compute this on a latitudinal arc. And we see this in a number of the PLSS options. This isn't a true geodesic or greater circle. The constraint in the public land survey system is that this be on a latitudinal arc, and so Traverse PC phrases it that way in the dialog. And notice that one of the intersections down here has turned from gray to white. So that indicates to us that Traverse PC has computed that intersection, and it's really waiting for a point label now to assign that point to. So let's come down to this field and type in our center quarter point. So 540, 440, and I'm going to add the letter G to the end of that to indicate to me that that's a geodetic position. I'm going to save that point. Let's say yes. And I could print out a summary to put that in the report so I know how that was created, and I've got an intersection report now added to the report. But I'm really interested in bringing that point into my retrace data here between the north quarter and the south quarter. So let's go ahead and find 540, 500 in the traverse and 540, 400 in the traverse, and let's insert that point between them. So press the insert key and let's type in 540, 440G, making sure that the G is a capital G. It knows the difference between uppercase and Traverse PC tells us it's inserting that point, and we've recalled it here. So Traverse PC has inserted that point into the traverse. Because the traverse is being drawn, Traverse PC regenerates it, and now we see that 540, 440G, or geodetic center section, in our drawing as well. Now, just for comparison's sake, I'd like us to go ahead and create the planar center of section also, just so we can kind of take a look at that and see what that difference looks like. All we really need to do is turn off the latitudinal arc here and come back and change this point label from a G to a P, indicating that it's a planar point, not a geodetic point. Let's go ahead and save that point as well. And let's go ahead then and do a random inverse between our geodetic point and our planar point. I'm going to show you two ways to do that. The option I probably would use is right here in the intersection dialog box, as is the case in many COGO dialog boxes. There's a plot button. As soon as I click plot, Traverse PC added the point to the drawing, and it did that because it inserted the point into a plot or point plot traverse. So let's show you how that works here. Let's come back to traverses. I can see here's a point plot traverse. It has just one point in it, the point we just added. Let's come over to our drawing and let's zoom in and take a look at that point that it put in there for us. So here's our planar point and our geodetic point. Turn off the zoom points. We can create some additional separation between those, but they're very, very close at this point. So I can see that both points are there. We know how to do a window extents. Zoom in very, very tight. We may have to do that more than once, but I can pretty quickly see that I've got that separation there. I'd also probably want to come back to the point manager, and let's close out our intersect dialog box. Let's come down and highlight 540, 440G, 540, 440P, and do a random inverse between those points. And I see that I've got 1600ths of separation between the planar center of section and the geodetic center of section, which is about what I would expect at this particular latitude. Now, one final comment here is that you'll notice that the side shot that I created from east quarter to west quarter runs through the planar center of section. That's because this is a straight line, okay, or a line of sight. I would simply come back to this traverse that I have here, and instead of going all the way across to the, let's just zoom out like this. Instead of going all the way across to the west quarter, I'd come back up here to where I recalled my west quarter earlier, and I would recall the center quarter now. So 540, 440G is going to be my, okay. And now I would come down beyond my center quarter, for instance, and this would be a place to recall my 500, 440, and bring that in as a side shot. Let's make sure that's a side shot. And I've got a much better depiction of what's actually happening there. And of course, I can come back to my planar center, right click, tell Traverse PC I want to untag that traverse so it doesn't show up in there. So there are some drafting issues related to representing those 40 lines, and we can take care of those in the drafting section. But we found out how easy it was for us to generate a geodetic center quarter as opposed to a planar center quarter.